So before we're starting today, can someone can wrap up what we discussed yesterday quickly? Sirisha, Ashwant, just quick overview. So what we discussed yesterday.
Yeah, hi Ram. So the discussion, like after the introduction, like why cloud and after the first day of one, like we discussed about the data centers, which is about the regions, the data centers which are located globally, and the advantages of that. Why we have the different data centers globally because we have the like high speed network was one of the major net advantage, and the other one is like we have they have fixed the issues, like something like they have latency issues that has been reduced, and then redundancy, resilience, compliances. So these are the main factors that they have brought up for the bring up multiple data centers around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And we spoke about, I mean, like you talked about something. I mean, like already we discussed on the high availability, like three different time zones and like three different zones, and then the high availability, how they have split the high availability in according to the zones. And then you brought up the topic of the management group, resource groups, and then the subscriptions.
Okay.
So yeah, like
Yeah. Good. So okay. Sirisha, you understand why what is the high availability, right? So when we take that data center, we discussed about high availability zone. You
Yeah,
got the, so do you understand what high availability zone means?
in high availability zones, we can physically separate the data centers and we have independent power and cooling process.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a kind of data center separated. Each will have a different networking and all those. Exactly. Okay. Mahesh, hello.
Yeah, Ram.
Yeah, Mahesh. So, why we need subscription?
It's a like a gateway for managing the cost and all those things.
Yeah, yeah. It is just a boundary where we say that particular resources, how much it is billed, all those things. We create a subscription. Without creating subscription, we can't use Azure. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. And Madhu, so what is resource group?
Prasad,
Yeah, yeah.
Campus
So,
Group contain all the virtual machines,
hmm,
all the stuff the group needs, some everything lab.
okay, yeah. So, why we are using that?
Main thing is the easy administration, I can say.
Hmm.
If you want to just bill for only one particular wing or one particular testing or development, we can separate it. Actually, no need to add any into the production or any other testing like that.
Yeah, yeah. So easy management, and one more is so RBAC. So we use access. So when we
Yeah,
giving the
yeah, yeah,
access
yeah,
to the
yes.
users, so we can say that minimum least privilege access instead of giving at the subscription level. If you want to give only development team, so there is a development resource group bill. So we'll give that. So even we can segregate as for the front end back end. So we'll give only front end resource group. So those are the major
Exactly.
benefit. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, good. So already you got the essence of the what we discussed yesterday topic. Now, Today I have we are planning to discuss about the what is the compute basics in Azure. So compute means just VMs, and then we're going to discuss about the Microsoft Entra ID. Then yesterday we couldn't able to create the trial account. Today we'll complete that. Okay, that is the agenda. So first, already previously we discussed, right, what is a compute. It is a it's like either it is a laptop or when whatever it is. So we say it is a compute because it need a CPU, memory, and the hardware, right? It includes a hard disk as well. So everything is a hardware. On top of that, we install OS, then we run the application. So why we need the compute? So only it comes from the application. So business need something to be hosted. So we need to run application. That's why we need a compute. Uh, when we use on-prem, that's the only way is a compute is either use a server, other is use a VM. When it comes to the cloud, there are so many different compute option. We are going to discuss all those in the future class, but here compute means anything where you wanted to host your application. uh, those it will provide all the required CPU, memory, and operating system. So that's what the compute basic thing. Here when it comes to the Azure, so I say that Azure virtual machines, what is the difference between Azure virtual machine and VMware virtual machines? It is the same, it's not different, I say. Azure VMware virtual machines, where we have vCenter, where we create a VMs, there we manage everything as yesterday discussed, right? That is on-prem, where we manage vCenter and everything, there we create a virtual machine. When it comes to the Azure, we don't manage all the vCenter and all those things. Azure has similar kind of virtualization, they maintain that. So only what we can do is, so we just create a virtual machine. When we use virtual machine, so it comes under service model and fast as a service, because physical we are not managing. Azure is managing all the physical things, data center and all those things. What we are doing is we are going to the Azure portal. There we are creating a virtual machine. So that's what this one. So here it will support Windows or Linux. So based on some application we need Windows, then so it is from the Microsoft, they will give a more discount. So if you are already using on-prem, if you are going to use Azure virtual machine, they'll have some kind of discount. Linux means, so it is any Linux distribution like Red Hat and whatever. So even Azure has the own distribution, Linux distribution, that also we can use. That is a default one based on our, if we have some requirement for application, whichever Linux we want. So it will have all these images, so which are maintained by the Azure. So every distribution they'll have maintained what are the latest images, but Azure doesn't support anything at the support level. So if you're using a Red Hat, so that is your responsibility. You have to reach out Red Hat and all those things. Only Azure will provide this VM level. So if you have any issues with the VM, that thing it will provide. If it is comes to the OS, they will say that you need to reach out their vendor. Even Microsoft, the Microsoft OS support. Okay, so same thing when we are going to use virtual machines, by default is a pay as you go pricing. Because based on whenever you bring up the VM, so we'll be using some 2 CPU and 4 GB memory. So and after that, if the utilization increases, and the price will go up. So and if the it is not using buffer, we shut down the VM, so those pricing will be reduced. So whenever you use, so we have a different option to reduce the cost. So I'll discuss when it comes to when we are creating in this Azure portal. But by default it will go as a pay as you pricing. So when you use, so they'll charge all CPU and some components will be if even you don't use, so it will be kept. So when we create a VM, so we created a hard disk. and it will, you say that this is the memory, this is the CPU. So memory, CPU, it will be, when you shut down, it will be released and it can be used in other virtual machine. Hard disk, so it is dedicated here. So whatever the VM, operating system, everything for the VM, it will be stored in a hard disk. So in this case, what will happen, even you shut down the VM, hard disk will be dedicated to you. They will be charged for the hard disk, but they don't charge for the CPU and memory, because when you shut down, you release that and in other virtual machine. So when we discuss about the how the cloud works, so there is so many vendors, they're going to use Azure. So it is a shared infrastructure. If you don't use, so those resources will be allocated to another user where they can run their virtual machine. So that's why it is on pay as you go pricing, and this, it has a higher pricing. So when you take different option will be there. So when you use default this one, it will has a more pricing. There will be reserved and different things will be there. So it will be reduce the cost based on the requirement. Will go those options. So when we say that the VM, virtual machine in the Azure or VMware, so these are the common. Here, what is a virtual machine? So we'll create a virtual machine, and there, so it is a components. When come to the Azure, so each components we can manage differently. So here virtual machine. So we define the what is virtual machine means. So we have to define what is a CPU and memory. It will have a different type of the what is it um, different pricing models. So if you so if you need more CPU and more memory, they'll have different options. So we can when we look at into the portal, it will say they different standard, basic. So different model they do the pricing. So whichever our requirement, so we can select, and even Azure portal, they will have a recommendation. So if we use for the database, we can use this model. Each application, whichever application we are hosting, each one has a different resource requirement. So if it is web app, it will be less resource intensive. But if you take any workflow related to database, data analytics, it need more resources. So based on the whatever application we are hosting, we decide which type of virtual machine we're going to use it. And OS hard disk. So OS hard disk is similar like a normal how laptop or desktop we have a hard disk. So they provide separate hard disk which is from the SAN. uh, so when it comes to on-prem, we say that is SAN. Here they maintain it separately. If you need disk for the OS installation, so default it will be 20 GB or something. After that, we need a more disk, so we can provision that. So what is the requirement? When we say that after installing OS, there is some application you need to put onto the VM, which need to be more less latency, more performance. So there is a option where we can add additional. It is OS is a default where we install the whatever the Linux or Windows we are installing in the VM, it will go to OS. But there will be option we can add a data disk. So we'll see that. And then the network interface. So generally when we deploy a VM, it's not a standalone. There will be the multiple VMs. Why? So we use a different kind of architecture. So we don't deploy everything into the one VM. It was the monolithic. Now it is a distributed architecture. So there each VM will have a responsibility. It is a front end where we install only Nginx or Apache and all those things. There will be the backend where we run some logic. The third one is where we have the database. So all those will be in a different VMs. So and those each VM will have separate NIC. So that is interface. In that interface, so we have option where we can assign the IP address. It's not, we are not assigning IP address to VM here. So it is isolated component. Network interface is a NIC. So we say that physical NIC card, it is maintained separately, where we can separately maintain it. So we can assign the IP, we can assign the some security energies will be there. We can assign at the NIC level. Okay. So here and one more component is a virtual network. So when we create the VM, so we deploy into the network. So network is kind of how it enables the communication. It is similar to our physical switch, how the VMs will be connected. So in the Azure, they give an option of a virtual network. So there, when we create a VM, we create all these network and all those things. Then we plug into the network. Then only it can communicate other VMs. Without a virtual network, if you don't put in a virtual network, it won't communicate to the other VMs. Okay. So just this is normal. Why I give these fundamentals. When we look into the creating the VM, we see all the components, how it is related. And here one more thing we need to understand is what is a VM scale set. So VMs we created based on requirement. There is a option when we are discussing it. We have option for the high availability and the scalability, how it provides. So from for the VMs, Azure it gives the this option VM scale sets. So what we do is, so we created one VM, and there we have installed our application, and so we have taken 2 CPU and 4 GB memory. That is some basic VM. So what happened for the pricing? So we given taken only one VM, and only 10 users are logged in the morning. So when it comes to the afternoon, there is suddenly they have trying to access 40 users. Then the VM cannot manage that much workload. Okay. So what happened, this VM scale set, it will monitor the what is the workload, how many users are trying to access the VM. Then it immediately triggers one more VM. The same VM1, it will create one more VM2. What it happens is, any workload is coming here, now it is 50 users, 10 users are first. So then it will say that okay, 40 more users are coming, so it will distribute for the VM1 and VM2. Okay, like that we have that option, auto scaling option, in that scale set. It will understand how much workload is coming. If the workload is coming, and it increases the number of virtual machines to the limit what we give. And after that particular level, if the workload is decreasing, so it can reduce the VMs. So it is the setting where we can do that. So this is what, so multiple ideas, all these VM will be identical, because when we create a VM scale set, we create a template. Say that if you wanted to create another VM based on the load, so you have to use this template. So it is identical, how many VMs it create, it will have the identical, but the NIC and those will be different. Only the operating system, CPU, memory is identical. NIC and each will need to be different. Even you create in on-prem, same way. So all the VMs should have only this memory, CPU, and that, but NIC and will be different. Auto scaling. So based on the workload, it will increase, reduce. That is called as auto scaling. High availability. So high availability, so how we do that, so we define these VMs. So all the VMs won't be running on one high availability zone. Each VM will be so first, if you take one VM, it is one availability zone 1, it's a availability zone 2. Even one is down, I have a whole data center is down, still our application is running. That's what we want. So that is it will be done when we do the configuration. So we have some scale set and availability zone, availability set is there. So those are the concept. So based on whatever high availability we need, this provides at high availability zone level availability. So each VM will be distributed across different availability zone. Even one zone is down, So still your application will be running. Okay. So you understand, these are the components even we when we create normal VMs in vCenter, it is the same. Okay. So if you have, while creating in Azure portal, if you have any more doubts, let me know. Okay. So next, uh, so we are going to discuss about what is entra ID. Okay. I'll ask few questions. So anybody have some understanding what is the difference between authentication and authorization? Any application or anything, when you discuss about, they say that is it authenticated? Okay. Then they say that are you authorized to do? Okay.
Authorization must might be a AD level or LDAP level, right?
Okay. What this mean? I mean, so when I say that are you authenticated, what it means?
Valid credentials.
Yeah. No, correct. So authentication means, so it will validate your credentials. It is like you give the username, you give the password, so it is MFA. So all these will say that. So if you are logging, right, Madhu or Mahesh, you are logging, so it will say that okay, is it, give your email ID, your password, you will have a MFA. It is additional security. Okay, make sure you are the Mahesh. So that's what authentication, who you are. So then okay, that is called as authentication. Next is the authorization. So what is authorization?
The role. What kind of role?
Policies, and then granting permissions,
I,
setting, so
Ashwant,
granting
it's
policy.
not
Yeah.
clear. Hello, I can't hear you.
Yeah, hi, I'm sorry. So it allows the permissions like groups and then resource groups policies. So granting the roles and permissions is generally is for the authorization.
Yeah, exactly. So first you are got authenticated. You are the person, yeah, H1 or whatever. So after that, so authorization is, so what you can do. So we'll have put some Ashwant can read. So that is what the permission I give. So if you log into the that portal or any authentication, so you can do is a read only. You cannot edit. Okay, like that I give Mahesh as a another access, writer access. This means once he authenticated, what he can do there, based on the whatever the authorization we gave, he can do all those things. You give a writer, he can do write. Okay. So these two are it is related to any component. If you take a website or any application, the security principle, authentication, authorization will come into the picture. So here we are using a cloud. Cloud is a uh, somewhere it is hosting in the Azure portal. So if you wanted to use that, so it made it secure, so anybody can't log in and use your credentials, right? So what they did is, so if you wanted to first log into the Azure portal, you need to authenticate. Okay. How do you, how it is authenticated? So they have a, if you have some understanding on Azure Active Directory, same kind of principle. First you have to give your credentials. Okay, then you will be authenticated, you will log in. So just to log in, then you don't have a permission by default. There will be denied permission, you don't give him any permission. Once you log into the Azure portal, you can't do anything. But there is one cache here. So if you created yeah, all this subscription and everything, you will have some additional permission. Okay, But apart from you, the first person who configured everything, he has a more permission, global administrator permission. He has everything to do. But Sirish has created all these things, and Mahesh or Ashwant, you logged in. Okay, you logged in, you don't have any access. Just you logged into the portal. You can't do anything because you are not given any access. Okay, that's how it works. So, which component manage all those things is a Entra ID. Okay, so Entra ID. Here we can see that, right. What is user? So user login. After that, it is a authentication is a identity verification. The third one is access granted is the authorization. So this is security. Why we use identity means it is a security. Make sure you the person who is logging, is it you or not. So who are created the Azure subscription, all those things, he has a full access. And when you log in, it will say that you have to use MFA, but to make it more secure. Okay. So once so Entra ID. So Entra ID, what it will do is it has a identity service. So what the identity service? So it will manage all the records. So one component. So once you log into the Azure portal, so you will have the email ID, whichever you register your email ID, password. When we creating, we give those. So what we'll do is it will have all the details every time when you log in. So it uses those identities. Okay. So it has the same identity service and users and access. So we'll see that. So it is normal like any Azure AD. It is previously it's called as Azure AD, and it will equal to the Active Directory. So Active Directory is on-prem, Azure AD is a cloud component. So what is the difference? So we'll see that when we are going the portal. So I'll show that difference. Okay. Here just when I log into the Azure AD or Entra ID, so what is the first thing we do? So we do is we create a users, we create a groups. Okay, and we give access to them. So Shirish has created the Entra ID, and she is going to give access. So okay, so when we part of that organization, so we'll be created a user. Okay, that's what when we join to the new company, so they'll ask our first name, last name, and everything. So what they do is they create a username in Entra ID. Okay, so and that is what you use in the Azure portal to log in. So once you log into the user, it is they won't give a permission to authorization to all the users, because there are thousand of users. What they do is that they create a group. So if you are the infrastructure administrator, they will create an infrastructure administrator group. So any new person come, they'll create a user and they'll add it to the group. Okay, what will happen, they'll give the permission to the group. Then anybody comes and leaves, he'll be part of the group. Only group will be having access. It's like individual, we don't manage. That is one of the security. We never give directly. It is not recommended to give access to the user, but there is some things are there you can give, but always try to use a group, and in the group only we have to give the permission, so everybody will get that. So here so already we talked, right. So users, what we create, after that what we create the groups. Then there is a application. So it is a additional concept. So where there is some outside one application you have, and we want that application you to access some components in Azure. So how we are going to do? It's not like only user. There is a application like web application or something. It is hosting outside Azure, but still it need some access. It might need a storage access, might need database access. There is some situation in that. How you do is so we use this applications is a thing. And here another thing is a roles. So we'll see the RBACs. So RBAC is a concept where we'll discuss the roles. Okay, So I think let me ask a question. Do you have understanding of RBAC? What how it works?
RBAC is role based. What is that full name? Role
Uh,
based access.
control, role
Okay.
based access control. Sirisha, what is mean RBAC? So we generally when we are talking about the access and things, right? We say that is it RBAC enabled? What is it? RBAC means can't hear you, Sirisha. Hello,
Yeah, yeah, Ram, sir.
go ahead.
Now we. ex-
No, whatever you know, tell me. It's not like the correct or
Uh,
wrong.
no,
Yeah.
as of now, I didn't know about that one. Just now, I listened here.
Okay, okay, get. So anybody? Ashwant, Mahesh.
Yeah, there are different roles will be there, like what kind of level access you need based on that one. That in RBAC, you will be assigned to that one. Like if I want for one person, he just want to read the content, then only the read only role will be assigned to that particular user. If you want to do some administrative level activities, then he will be assigned like an administrator role. And if you want like a whole access completely, then the top role will be assigned to the particular user. So based on the requirement and the what kind of role you want to assign, RBAC will give you those kind of roles to assign to a particular user.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So Ashwant. So if we are using RBAC, what you see the benefit? Without RBAC, what is the drawback and why we need to use RBAC? So what Mahesh explains, right?
Yeah, right. It will be the same, Ram. Like similar kind of roles we assign in OS level. Like if you need a directory level access or file level access, we create groups, users, and different levels of ownerships. A different level of groups will be assigned to users. So if a user is logging into one of the groups, like that roles or the privileges will be assigned to that particular user apart from any other access. So I see the same benefit here.
Yeah, exactly.
That is my view. Yeah.
Yeah, correctly. Yeah, you pointed out correct. So when we say that what kind of users going to access the system, so we say that okay, there will be a reader, there will be a writer, so there will be administrator. So those are the uh, major kind of persons will log into the system. Then what we do? So what are the things he can? If he is a reader, what he will do? Then we give those permission to that. Okay, so reader will be read all these components. They say that we create a reader role. All those will be added there. What are the permission is required? A writer are the same. Administrator he can do anything. So like that we create a number of roles based on the what kind of users will be accessing the system. Okay, so those kind of things will be called as a role. So what happens? There is 1,000 users. We don't need to create each users go there and create what he is going to do all those things. So already discussed, right? Users will be added to the group. What we do is a group will add a role. So if all the members in the group will be added as administrator. If you are the administrator for this organization who will manage everything, there will be administrator group, and there that group will assign to the administrator role. All the group member will be administrator. Similar like that, if you are the new users or guest user, they'll create some reader role, and then all the new guest user will be part of one group, they will assign that role. So it will simplify the management. So here, right, authorizations, it will be more secure, and we can easily manage it. Say that administrator is doing this and we wanted to remove the administrator, just we go that remove the rule, so that nobody will have access, not like individual we remove and all those things. But it is a most of the windows how they are using, linux also has. Now the same kind of concept they use in azure based on the levels, right? So when we discussed yesterday, there is a different levels: management group, and after that subscription, resource group, resource. So those many levels are there. Each level we can create a RBAC. So when we create RBAC access at this management group, so what will happen? All the subscription part of that management group will have whatever the access we give there. Okay, there is 100 how many is there, so the same all the subscription, everything you'll get whatever the permission you give. Then we say that no, that user don't need all subscription, only need a only particular subscription. So then we'll do, so we'll go to the subscription RBAC. In that subscription RBAC, we'll give that okay, that user only do that some administrator activity in this subscription, remaining you don't have access. Okay, again we say that he don't need subscription. Subscription means there is so many things, all these servers and storage. No, I don't want to give that access, so only wanted to give some front end application. Then I go to the resource group, and that resource group I'll give that RBAC. Then only we can do all those things in a resource group level. Still we say that it is more exclusive giving, everything we are giving all the resource. I wanted to give only particular resource, either storage or VM, so we can give the resource level. Okay, that's what we discussed, right? What is the benefit of resource group? So this RBAC is about the security, what level access the users will get. Okay. Yeah. So this is what we do: authentication, authorization. Entra ID, what we will do is a, so Entra ID plus RBAC. So Entra ID is a more about who you are. So first it authenticate, and it will say that what you can do. It is Entra ID. Azure RBAC is, so what you can do in the resources. Okay, so it will have a different, even Entra ID have one more roles. So let's see that those roles are different. Those are roles are related to what you can do is in Entra ID. Azure RBAC is what you can do in the resources. So those are different. Entra ID is specific to the Entra ID. Entra ID, so many things we can do. So generally Entra ID admin will be separate, and Azure administrator will be separate, because Entra ID is the person who manages all these new users and what he can do. So that will be different team. Infrastructure is so where your application will be created at a server, storage, and everything. Each product will be separate. Entra ID will be the whole organization. There will be a separate team. Okay.
Prasad, can we call Entra ID as a ADID?
Yeah, that's what Active Directory.
Okay.
So this similar, the whatever we active directory right on-prem, so it all the system will add there and users will be created. So we assign, okay, if you log into the system, only these user can log in. So this system you cannot plug into USB. So how we set all those things, right, in on-prem. So similar to the cloud, where it will enable, so which system you can access, what you can do, all those things will be maintained in the Azure. So similar concept what we use Active Directory, but they have removed some of the jargons. We are not using service, that policies were there. So those policies
Okay.
they don't use, and there was some hierarchy level change policies will be there. There it is a flat architecture. So those are some changes when we compare and try idea the Active Directory. There is still there we can integrate. So we're going to discuss that. So we have Active Directory already. There will be so many customers, right? They'll hand from they use Active Directory. Then now they wanted to use a cloud. Then use the Entra ID. They don't want to create all the users again. Then what they can integrate entra id, they can integrate with the your on-prem active directory. What will happen, all the users will be synced to the entra id and you can access the Azure portal as well. That's what every organization was doing. So they will be having already username, everything they created in, they won't create in entra id again, just they integrate. There is one that entra id connect will be there. So when we do that connection, all use emails and everything will be synced to the cloud. So if you log into the portal.azure, so you can use your enterprise email id and we can log in. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So this what so we have discussed, right? So what is RBAC? So Azure RBAC is the same. So in that, so we'll have previously we discussed, right, a reader, writer or something, but Azure RBAC has some predefined roles. So here is a owner. So owner is someone who can do anything. He can give the access, he can edit and everything. So if you created that resource, you are the owner. Okay, you can do anything on the resource. If you create as a subscription, right, when you when going to do is, so you create a subscription, you pay the billing, so that you are the owner, so you can do anything on that. And then you say that I wanted to Sririsha has created, she is the owner, and then she wanted to give the Mahesh or Yashwant want to do something. So it will say that they are part of their team. They wanted to create a VMs storage, but only that's what the part. They can't add a one more user. If they wanted to add Madhu to that Azure, they can't do because he's there are not the owner. The what we permissions he can give is the contributor. They can create VM storage and everything they can do. But if they think that we wanted to add one more user, they can't do. Only Sirisha can do. She is the owner. Okay. Then is a reader. A reader means you can view that. So what is the storage account, what is the VM, and all those things. Once you log in here, you can see that what is there. So you can't do any modification. These are the default built-in users. So there are so many other users will be there based on each component. If you are VM, so they'll have some built-in rules. VM administrator, VM login. So those, even I don't remember all those things. So whenever whichever the permission we wanted to give the user, so we'll see that what are the built-in roles we can give that, or else we say that okay, that is not matching, it is more permissions. I wanted to least privilege. So means whichever he has to do, we'll give those permissions only. So it might have multiple 10 permission, but we wanted to say that person has to just see this. So reader means, as I mentioned, right, it will, you can read the VMs, you can read storage and everything will be there. But you say that I don't want to enable everything, so I wanted to enable only a reader. Okay, a reader to the VM. So we can do that. We can create it if it is built-in is there. We can built-in role will assign. But if you say that I wanted to create another role which is specific to the VM, that we can create. So that is called as a least privilege principle. So any security, when you discuss about a security, they say that are we using a least privilege principle? Means that is the concept. So whichever he has to do, that permission only will give. So he is the VM administrator. He only has to do the VMs. He cannot log in, cannot do anything on the storage. Okay, but that still, if you say that VMs, he can access all the VMs, all these front end, back end. But you want to restrict him only one VM. Okay, that is a least privilege. So he only has to access only front end VM. That what we do is we make it them as a particular VM reader. So that is called as a least privilege principle. Okay, and you understand these concepts. So when we do this creation of the access control and we assign that, so throughout the training we'll have so many times we need to give the role access to the different components and different users, then you'll understand what are those. Okay, that's it for today. and we'll go creating the free trial account. So Sirisha yesterday, she's not able to, today we'll do. So as I mentioned, right, so each one will create, then we'll try to distribute others. It will give only 30 days, so that's what I want to utilize effectively. Okay. Now, so first we'll see that Sirisha will create. I will add your user email ID to that Entra ID. There you can access. And if you have any difficulty, then we'll try to use one more account. It is requires some credit card and email ID. Then we can. If you don't use previously, it allows. If you use that, it won't allow, because yesterday even I was trying. So I already use my credentials. I have created one trial account. Now I'm creating, but what happened, right, I have given my email ID or my phone number, so they have the details. If I give the same name or something, they're saying that you already utilized this free trial, they are not allowing. So that I don't aware. Now I got to know, even if you give the same mobile number, they will say that okay, so already you have a use. So you need to use all these whatever the details we are giving. If if you give different only, then we can avail the second time. It's not only credit card, you need to use a different credit card. All the database already, everything they store when we create first time. Second time they try to match. So this, they said already you utilize that benefit, you cannot do it. Okay, please be aware. If you already use it, then make sure that phone number, email ID, everything should be different, even credit card, then only you'll get a benefit. Even you give the same mobile number, it is yesterday I got to say that, so you have already availed that free account, you can't create it. I use a new credit card, but I forgot that I gave same mobile number. So so they wanted all this unique. So because they're giving $200, so that's what. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Uh, Sirisha, you can share your screen. So
Yeah, yeah.
I will
Let me share
create
this.
free trial account.